is Louise Gowen, but I was born Leokadia Gizinska. That was what was put on my birth certificate, and it was the 3rd of March, 1920. I remember back when I was probably 3 years old, where we had fun time all the time, running around in the yard, making up our own games, and we had very little toys. Since there were 5 of us, we always found some kind of game to play, even if it was teasing each other, getting into each other's hair. My mother and father were the kindest, gentlest, most loving people I have ever met. They hardly ever raised their voices. In fact, I don't even remember when they raised their voices. Oh, they had their arguments and stuff, but they didn't ever scream at each other the way I hear some people do now. We just did everything as a family. Church was our base for belonging. In other words, that's where most of our friends came from. Church we belonged to, which was St. Mary's, and my mother and father were married there, and we were all christened in that church, and got married in that church, except for my one brother who got married in North Carolina. And we lived in a house that my grandfather built. You know, we didn't have television, so everything came over the radio. And we had a little tiny radio sitting in a corner of the living room, and everybody would gather around there. All my cousins and aunts and uncles would come over, and we would have music sessions. I played the piano.
Wow.
And my sister played piano, the other sister played violin, my 2 brothers played the trumpet, and then all my aunts and uncles played instruments. And my father, incidentally, was a coal miner, and he died in 1929 when I was 9 years old. When my father died, about 10 days later, his mother died. She just said, "I have nothing to live for," and she just literally gave up on life, and she died. And then her husband said, "Well, I have nothing to live for," and he did the same thing. He just stopped eating and stopped drinking and just stayed in bed all the time and did nothing. So within 2 weeks we had 3 funerals. So I think that was a huge crisis in my life, because not only did we have nothing, but we ended up with losing so many loved ones. Yeah, we used to say, "Why did Daddy die? Why didn't he come home? Why, you know?" And then I found later why, because the good Lord was teaching me to have strength when it happened to me. During the Depression, we weren't the only poor people around. Everybody else was having trouble, so we just made the best of it. My mother had never worked in her life, so there were 5 of us, and it was during the Depression, and there was no money, so she had to go to work. And so she went to work in a factory, silk factory, for 10 cents an hour. That left all the housekeeping to the children, because she worked from 6 to 6. We learned to take care of each other. We learned responsibility. We learned to share. We learned that crying about it wasn't going to do any good, so you got out there and you did what you could. People gave us clothes, and then my mother would make them over to look like you would never recognize they were the same clothes. She was a wonderful seamstress. My one sister went to work as soon as she was 16 in the same silk factory. And when my other sister was 16, she did the same, and my brother and the other brother. And I was left to do the housekeeping. people were so deprived of anything, although while you were going through it, you didn't really miss it.
Yeah.
That you didn't have money to go out and buy a doodad or whatever. Then once the economy started getting better, then all of a sudden people had money, and they didn't realize they should save that money. They realized, oh, I have money, I can go to the store now. It was so exciting, you know? And so they just went out and they started buying things, whether they was useful to them or not. And I think that has so escalated so badly that now that's the only thing people think about is, oh, I have money, I have to go out and spend it, you know? At that time, people never bought anything unless they had the money. They saved to buy whatever they wanted. Now, with the plastic cards, just that's where the economy has changed. Just things that are in everybody's mind. People thinking of things, and then it ended up that they were thinking of themselves rather than somebody else. The sharing, the caring kind of turned around. What can I do for me, or what's in it for me?
Right.
Idea that came into play, and it's hard to let go once you start on that road. Always think of people first. Am I doing this for myself only, or am I doing this for the good of the family? Am I doing this for the good of the two of us? It's always important to take that into consideration. Everybody has faults, and it's so much easier if you overlook their faults and try to correct yours. And it's a lot easier to live that way. Love, I think, is the most important thing. And show your love. Don't just say, oh, they know I love you. No, they don't. They need to be told or shown in various ways. Do little things for them. Like my husband used to every once in a while just bring one flower to me, or buy me a bar of chocolate candy, which is my downfall. Those are things meant more to me than a great big diamond, because I knew he was doing it out of love, not because he had to give it to me. As far as children are concerned, love them, love them, love them. You can never love them enough. And steer them in a direct, let them make their own faults. If they're not big ones, understand where these errors came from and why they did it. And faith, religious faith, is really important. I don't know what people do that do not believe in God. I don't know where they turn to, because many times in my life I just didn't know where to turn to, because I didn't know what the answer to the problem was. And yet I always knew I was not alone in anything. I always had a buddy with me by my side, telling me, if I listened, what to do. My religious faith is the only thing that has pulled me through life, and still is my crutch. Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just remember, I've had a great life.